Now, going on to the business blunder of the day, you have Bud Light and the UFC sign a multi-year deal as we go through the business breakdown. Now, this comes thanks to an article on CNBC, and they specify that the deal goes into effect January 1st and comes after the brewery is a futile attempt to come back from the business blunder of the century, which was Alyssa Tigerschild, the brilliant marketing leader at Anheuser-Busch InBev, who on her LinkedIn profile was very proud of who she was, what she was, not who she was. She was proud that she was a woman, but she had that in her bio saying she's the first woman in the position at the company. And then videos of her came out where she's saying that, oh yeah, this has a fratty image, we don't like that. And of course, in true hypocritical fashion, pictures of her leaked in which she was drinking Bud Light, or presumably some type of low quality beer, from a prophylactic, which again, kind of shows a fratty lifestyle she was a part of. And then they thought it'd be brilliant to say, hey, even though you have to be 21 to buy our product, let's hire Dylan Mulvaney, who this person's average viewer on TikTok is about 15 years old. And in terms of cultural controversies, this person is a trans activist. And even the trans community is controversial because this person has not had the surgery, which some of them claim you do or do not need. So a controversy and a controversy and a controversy, which sure as hell actually alienated everyone, left, right, center. So they had the business blunder of the century, losing 30% of their sales on average, week over week, by dollar amount. By volume, it's usually between 26 and 27%. It's so bad, their fiscal Q2 results were $400 million just vanished. Just $400 million in sales just gone compared to the same fiscal quarter last year. And given the sales trends that we've been seeing, I don't think that trend is going to turn around anytime soon. So they're trying to think, how can we win back customers? Do we address the elephant in the room, or the Dylan Mulvaney in the room? Or do we just kind of lean in and try to do the same old thing by sponsoring sports balls events and country music shows and have cliched videos of America, which people used to believe we were authentic? That debate isn't in and of itself because they're also Belgian-based now, because Anheuser-Busch is part of Anheuser-Busch InBev. And, of course, with Belgium, while they do make great rifles and presumably waffles, some people don't appreciate the fact that this American company is now part of a global business, so they're saying, well, now it's a Belgian company. Now, it looks like Bud Light, they're actually going to replace Modelo, which, again, in terms of a business strategy for Bud Light, that's their biggest competitor right now. Modelo supplanted them for the number one beer by sales. Again, Bud Light had that position for 20 years, and they thought, we got to change things up. You know what? That DEI score is pretty important. All these ESG scores, that's important. Instead of our current customer base, we're going to focus on the 20-year plan, which, again, with demographics in the United States, it might be a financial, really prudent decision. But what do you do in the interim? And is that trend going to reverse? Is that trend variable? Is that going to be a consistent trend in terms of demographic changes in the United States? And subsequently, I don't think that was really their long-term plan, because they fired many people associated with this particular marketing initiative. And again, so it caused a lot of negative short-term ramifications, and I subsequently don't think it'll get better anytime soon. Now, it looks like Modelo had been the partner of UFC since 2017. And again, I think Modelo has like a tagline or something where like the fighting spirit or something along those lines. And again, in terms of market share and protest, if you are against Anheuser-Busch InBev and you are in the United States, you can guilt-free buy a Modelo. I suggested Yangling, since they're still based in the United States, owned by a family, longest brewery in existence. But in terms of Modelo, in the United States, they're part of a separate business entity known as Constellation Brands. If you're in another country and you buy a Modelo, then yes, Anheuser-Busch InBev does own it and you are helping them. So if you're partaking or not partaking in the boycott appropriately, a little bit of extra information for you. Now, the deal that they say is well into the 9 figures and is the largest mixed martial arts promotion in history. That's according to another source of the matter when they were speaking with CNBC. And there's rumors that it's about $100 million, which is a huge amount of money, don't get me wrong. Now, they say that with the deal, Anheuser-Busch is attempting to reestablish its ties to the organization to have perceived conservative. They say that UFC is more conservative, which I would probably venture to say so. There's not a lot of trophies giving out just for participating in the sport of the UFC. And you have to I know it's a rare word. I'm sorry, depending on what school you are, if you're part of the public school institution, you might have to dust off a dictionary to learn this word called merit, in which you get something based on your actual results. not just showing up. Now, it looks like purportedly UFC CEO Dana White had donated at least $1 million to Presidential Action Committee that supported Donald Trump's 2022 presidential campaign, and Trump actually appeared at a couple of UFC events earlier this year. Now, Anheuser-Busch apparently had teamed up with UFC all the way back to 2008, but in 2017, that was when the company actually took the deal with Modelo to be the official big sponsored beer of the actual event. And of course, I still can't believe Dana White would let this happen. Now, don't get me wrong, in terms of business, the UFC did merge with WWE, or they were bought out by each other, so now they're one corporate entity, so perhaps they just need some quick cash. And again, in terms of branding and sponsorships, it's pretty easy money. You just slap a logo on the ring, and voila, you're the official beer sponsor of this particular sporting, well, I was going to say, instead of a sports balls game, this is more of a, more of a gladiatorial experience, or gladiator experience, some might say. Well, it's a little disappointing they don't have weapons yet. Perhaps UFC 2.0? Dana White, give me a call. I might have an idea here. But now, nevertheless, it looks like when asked for comment, Anheuser-Busch CEO Brendan Whitworth, and former CIA operative, he said, quote, Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light have always been on the cutting edge of iconic sporting moments that fans remember forever, and reuniting with the UFC is a continuation of the industry-leading legacy, unquote. Well, they certainly lead the industry by giving Dylan Mulvaney that can, with Dylan Mulvaney's face on it, celebrating what Dylan Mulvaney claimed was 365 days of womanhood. Now, that can should be in a museum in terms of historical provenance. I can't think of a marketing campaign, let me know in the comments, that has so single-handedly destroyed the reputation of a company and destroyed and eviscerated their sales. Again, in one quarter, $400 million, gone. About $28 billion in stock evaluation erased. And it's not getting better anytime soon, even if they're sponsoring this event. Now, the UFC is now again part of the new holding company called TKA Group Holdings, and they claim to reach an audience of more than 700 million fans. And they claim that the partnership grants Bud Light visibility to about estimated 900 million TV households in more than 170 countries. Now, Dana White, he actually commented, a part of me almost was wondering, and again, the odds are not in my favor in terms of my theory or thought, but I almost thought he might have not had anything to do with this, or maybe it was made without his knowledge, but that was naive to say the least. He's been the face of UFC for decades. He helped turn the company around. He has business brilliance, to say the least, in terms of his accomplishments. Now, when asked for comment, he said, and again, this is Dana White, quote, Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light were UFC's original beer sponsors more than 15 years ago. I'm proud to announce we're back in business together, unquote. He continued to say, quote, there are many reasons why I choose to go with Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light, most importantly, because I feel we're very... I can't fathom what he just said, so I have to restart what his quote is. So yeah, this is Dana White, which many people perceive as an entrepreneur and a badass who stays out of politics. He wants the UFC to just be apolitical, non-controversial, just pure raw sports and merit. He doesn't do any of the race baiting stuff. He's very straightforward and articulate with his wording. And somehow these words left his mouth. So I will reset the quote. From Dana White, quote, there are many reasons why I choose to go with Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light. Most importantly, because I feel we are very aligned when it comes to our core values and what the UFC brand stands for, unquote. I mean, not just the act of the sponsorship, but that quote could be the quote blunder of the day. Let me know if you think that should be a thing. But again, historically speaking, the UFC wants to stay away from controversy. They want to build their brand. Why not take a risk on someone like a Yangling, which again is still the oldest family-owned brewery in the United States? I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't know if they have the financial capital to allocate to such a marketing event. Again, the rumor is $100 million. That's a big chunk of change. And Anheuser-Busch, even though they have lost about 30% of their sales for the Bud Light brand in particular, for that one, Budweiser, that's about 12% down in sales. They're still a multi-billion-dollar company. And they're trying to dig their ways out of this hole. I'm so shocked. Let me know. I can't help but think this is just going to hurt both their reputations. And we talk about, if you're watching the full show, you notice that when we were talking about the particular tweet in which Bud Light announced this partnership, an overwhelming majority of the tweets were pejorative. They're all making fun of the UFC. The UFC was getting dragged down with Bud Light. And of course, many of the comments were also viscerally laughing at and ridiculing Bud Light as they continue to just ignore the elephant or the Dylan in the room. And it's just, it's almost unfathomable. So I guess let me know in the comments, are you surprised that Dana White approved this and he said that? And then, do you think that's going to increase their sales? I mean, again, this is anecdotal evidence from that one instance in which we saw the relationship or consumer input where we saw the tweet from Bud Light. Everyone on that particular instance was, I think it was one, I specify, there's 2 positive comments. One was apparently from a real person. One had the personality of a robot or just has robotic activities reposting stuff. But in that experience, everyone was roasting the 2 companies. So again, in terms of a company that's, again, is supposed to stand for, being, as youth might call it, badass, or, a merit-based, uncontroversial sport of the UFC. And they chose the most controversial beer company on the planet. I mean, it's been, April 1st is when they had that business blunder of the century with Dylan Mulvaney, and it was not a joke. Well, it turned their sales into a joke. But it's those instances where, of all the brands to choose, I can't think of one that would damage their company more than this. So, needless to say, choosing Bud Light as the official beer of the UFC, that's got to be the business blunder of the day. Thank you again, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. I know we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of October, so if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a comment helps me make the channel better and better with your input. Even critical feedback is highly appreciated because, as I like to say, that's how you grow the most. And also, liking the video lets me know I'm on the right track as well. Also, and lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.